Hey guys, welcome back to the Marketing and Manifestation Podcast. I am so excited for this episode today because it is my first interview on the podcast. I had the pleasure of interviewing the beautiful Laura Fuchs a few weeks ago, and I'm so excited to bring this chat to you. Laura is a life coach for business women, so she blends all modalities of breath work and inner child healing and mindset work and all of her incredible frameworks to help business women or women in business achieve massive amounts of success and hold that success within their body and be able to receive without struggling with burnout and without pushing too hard and without leaning too hard into the masculine strategies. So Laura's values really align with everything we talk about on this podcast. And it's just such a beautiful conversation we had. I'm really excited to bring it to you, and I hope you can grab some golden nuggets from this episode to start implementing into your life and your routines and start reflecting more inward with yourself. I think a lot of the time with business, we do so much outward pushing, but really success starts from within. And if we want to build a business that feels as good as it looks, it's not just something that we have or do, it's something that really lights us up and brings us so much fulfillment because all I preach is building a life and business that feels good because as I've said before, if a business doesn't feel good, I don't want it. I'd honestly rather go back to working part-time in retail. So Laura and I speak about everything from moving cities to starting businesses to her crazy journey that's brought her to entrepreneurship today. We speak about healing and the importance of healing your inner child and settling yourself in moments of stress. We talk about new friendships, we talk about connection and so many of the good things. So I really hope you enjoy this episode. And I would love to hear your feedback in the comments if you're watching on YouTube or sending me a DM. I am at @ShakiraPark_ on Instagram. I love hearing your feedback and your takeaways and just hearing if you listened to the episode. So I will let you jump in now and enjoy. Hello, Laura. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm so
Thank you.
excited.
I'm so excited to have you. We've had some technical difficulties today. So manifesting that it's all smooth sailing from here. I can already hear and see you a lot better. So it's going to be an epic conversation.
Nice.
So I'd love to hear a bit about your story and how you came to be a life coach for businesswomen because we have so many business coaches. Let's not lie. We know there's an abundance of business coaches available, but it's not too often you come across a life coach for business women and, working with the modalities that you do, such as breath work and inner child healing, which I can't wait to get further into because I just know that you are a wealth of knowledge when it comes to those topics. So I would love to hear about a bit about you and your origin story and how you got to be the wonderful life coach that you are.
Yeah, so it's a little bit of a longer story, but basically I study business and I was living in Amsterdam for a while in 2017. And I just didn't want to be in the whole corporate environment anymore. I've decided that's not my vibe. And you know how it is when you sit in Amsterdam and you're having your little cafe and you're just hanging around, you're like, it would be very romantic to open a coffee shop one day. And in that moment, I was like, that sounds fun, but I have no idea about hospitality or no idea about coffee in general. And so I decided, okay, after my degree, I'm going to spend a couple of years just really getting into the whole coffee industry, which I've done. Like I came to Australia, so I'm from Germany, but I came to Australia, did an exchange semester here, worked in different roasteries, worked on a coffee farm, worked in Japan in a cafe, and then went back to Germany with my partner and decided to open that coffee shop. And it just didn't work out how I wanted to. And you know how when you have those plans and you have those expectations, and I'm a verbo, so I'm very like structured and like really focused on my goals. And it just didn't work out. And I was kind of like really in that hustle of, but I told everyone about it. And I've moved my Australian partner to Germany where he doesn't speak the language and he can't do his job. I've spent years and years like kind of building that identity of Laura is the person in the coffee industry. I know everything about coffee, but I have no idea what else I would like to do. But because it didn't really work out and I was working 3 jobs at the time, I kind of was pushing and pushing and pushing towards that one goal of your own coffee shop and still trying to keep up with everything else. I kind of started losing myself a little bit. And not just, I'm sure some of the women who are listening have experienced that before, that if you are really chasing your goals, but rather because you want them, but because you have to, because you feel like you've told everyone you have those expectations, it just built up a lot of pressure in me, which all came from myself, by the way. No one put pressure on me. It was just me putting that on me with all my own ideas and dreams. And one day I was just crying and sitting at home, and I didn't really know, how can I make this happen? How is this going to work? This seems so difficult. Why is it not flowing? Why is it not easy? Because I was already on my spiritual path at that time. So I knew it should be easier. It should be, of course, there's always work involved, but it should be a little bit more light. And I started to forget things. I started to not being able to focus anymore. I started to sit in my one job and halfway already think about my next job that I had to do. So I was constantly living, not really in the present, but more in the future, but also not really in the future. I would even say I wasn't even really living. And then my mom was like, it looks a little bit like you're scratching here on a burnout, my friend. And I was like, surely I'm not, like I'm a high efficient being. I can do those things. I can smash it. I can slay it. And one day I was just sitting there, I was like, it really doesn't work. But then when you allow yourself to think about, what if you're not doing that, what you've built for the last 4 years, what you dreamed about, what your goals were, what you told everyone, what you planned your life around. I'm going to be here for 3 years and I'm going to live here. This is how I'm going to build my life. This is how I'm going to make money. This is how I'm going to have a family eventually. And it doesn't work out. It was so scary to allow myself to even play with that thought of not doing it anymore, that my mom was saying, you could do two things here right now, Laura. You could either, because she's very, how do you say, she's like in the therapy space a little bit, always in her inner work and inner journey. So she knows how important it is to look inside yourself. She's like, okay, cool. You could do two things. Either you go into something called self-aware therapy. We have that in Germany, where you just go to therapy and you figure out who you are and what your values are and what you rather could do and where your strengths are. Or you could do a life coaching course. And I was like, life coaching? Like, there's so many life coaches out there. Who needs another life coach in this life? And she's like, just do it for you, like start this whole course, have a good time, see if you can coach yourself through this whole thing and see where you end up. So she picked out that course for me because I really didn't have the mental capacity at that time anymore. I was just so stressed. I couldn't message anyone. I couldn't reach out for help. I was just trying to stay afloat, kind of. And she figured out that course that was a cool mixture of spirituality, which I love, but then also science, because I want to know how bodies work. I want to know how neurotransmitters are produced in your body, what they do, and what they do with your feelings. And I want to know how thoughts are going into reality. Rah, rah, rah. So it was kind of a good mixture of science and spirituality. And I started this course that was now 3 years ago, thinking, yeah, I'll just do that on the side and then we'll get back into coffee. And 3 months in, I think what clicked for me was that life coaching compared to therapy was the first time where I actually got an action step after my issues. So I understand my patterns, but in therapy, it always used to be, yeah, that's what your issue is. This is where it comes from. Off you go. But I was always like, what am I going to do with this? What shall I do with this knowledge now? How am I going to turn this around? How can I change it for me? How can I make sure I'm not landing again in those patterns? So I started in the life coaching course and there were so many tools and I was like, oh my God, this makes so much sense. I know what to do now. I know how I can change it. I know how I can build better things. And so I started coaching on the side because I had to in order to get my degree. It was a year. And it was just so much fun that I realized, okay, this is what I want to do. And that's been 2 years from now. And I think the reason, because you asked why I ended up being a life coach for business women, is because I can really understand how women in their own business feel. We all know it. When you start your own business, it's not that Instagram, TikTok kind of thing where you like, you start a business and you become a millionaire tomorrow, right? You need to look into your own issues. You need to look into your own doubts and your fears, in your beliefs, in the stories you tell yourself, your brain tells yourself. And it can be very easy to end up in that vortex of just go, 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 and forgetting yourself a little bit. And I was like, cool, I know the side of the business side because I've studied business. So I understand KPIs, I understand strategies, I understand marketing, I know what they need. But then again, I can talk to them about it. but they rather want the strategies of how can I take care of myself in that process so I can turn around my marketing, so I can turn around my business plan or my strategies that another business coach gave me, for example. And this is basically how I ended up here today, because it's just so much fun working with women who I can bounce off business ideas, but still making sure we're figuring out where are you in your body? Why are you not moving? Is this your goal? Is it a goal of someone else? How can we make sure that you feel aligned within yourself and fill your cup before you fill other people's cup, right? And yeah,
Wow,
that's
that
me
is
2 years
so
later.
powerful. So
Yeah.
powerful. And I can totally relate to that thing of holding on to something that
Mhm.
you shouldn't be holding on to anymore, but because it's what you've been doing and because your identity
Yeah.
is so held in it. And it's that, what would everyone say if this doesn't work out? And I think there's probably a few people listening as well that have had a few different businesses and a few different career paths. And, they get to another one and it's like, at what point would you say someone should really consider pivoting, like, or taking a
Hmm.
whole new path? Like, at what point is it, no, stick with it, keep going? Like, this is the thing. There's so
Yeah.
much rhetoric online that's people say, just keep going, no matter what,
Mhm.
do what it takes. But then there's also a point of like, is it actually making you happy? Like, what
Mhm.
advice would you give to someone in that kind of scenario?
Yeah, I think this is something that's really hard, right? Because the question is, from what standpoint are you asking yourself that? Are you asking yourself because you're fully overwhelmed and right now everything's too seems to shatter in your world and you just can't do it anymore? Or do you have the feeling like you gave it a really good crack and you can say, I tried my best and it just doesn't work out, or it doesn't resonate anymore, or I've grown out of it? Something I heard the other day that I'm trying to work with is the question is, do I want it or do I need it? If I need it, then I'm acting out of a pose or like a space of scarcity, right? I'm lacking something, and in order to fill that lack, to fill that hole within me, I'm trying to aim for something. So I'm kind of going out of the wrong frequency and the wrong, yeah, idea of everything. Whereas if you know, on the other side, I want this business, or I want that program, or I want whatever is out there, that project, because it would make me happy, because I'm having a ripple effect, because my impact's going to be great, because I can help so many other women and this is going to be amazing. Then you have a different kind of energy, because you know already you don't need it in your life. You want it, yes, but you don't essentially need it to survive. And of course, there's still going to be times where you have to remind yourself, do I want this or do I need it? Because also when you are in that space of, yes, I want this, I'm so excited and I don't really need it, there's still fear sometimes, and there's still the doubt of, can I be that person, can I hold this person, am I good enough? But as long as you can come back to, I have that fear and I'm keep going, I think that's a really powerful post to be in. And then when you feel like, no, what not I want this but I need that, that's maybe the point where you don't essentially have to stop, but you can just see, like, how can I make sure I want that? Like, what do I have to change? Where do I have to refine or tune a little bit better into my direction? Yeah, maybe that does it help?
Yeah, I think so. And I think what you raised was a really powerful point. At the first thing you said was, do I want this? Will it make me happy? Because I think there's so many women out there that aren't doing the things that make them happy because they have those needs, I've got to put food on the table, I've got to pay the bills. All these
Yeah.
external, voices keep coming into their head about what needs to happen, to be a functioning member of society. But sometimes I
Hmm.
think as women, we can tend to abandon what actually makes us happy, and putting
Hmm.
ourselves first and be like, I want this because it makes it happy and I want it because I want it. And I'm allowed to just want something because I want it. And it's okay to sacrifice things I think I need
Yeah.
in order to have the things I actually just want, because those other things will be taken care of in the end. And I
Yeah.
think, we get so wrapped up in our stories, I think, as women, just survival. And there's so much about, providing for yourself and not needing a
Hmm.
man these days, that I
Hmm.
think, as a woman in business, it is really hard to just be like, I just want this thing to be happy. Because especially online, we're told like, you need this course, you need this
Yeah.
program, you need this to up level. Oh, you need this amazing website, you need this shoot. And it's like, no, it's like, what do you actually want? Like, what do you feel like will resonate for
Hmm.
yourself? And even if it's not a business moving activity, maybe it's just you want to go do a yoga class at 4 p.m. on a Sunday afternoon,
Yeah.
just go do it.
Yeah, so good. There's so many things you just said where I was like, yes, the whole thing of I don't need a man is so dangerous, I think, because of course we want to be independent women and we want to be feminists, right? We want to be out there, but it's also okay not to be the strong woman all the time. It's also okay to ask for help. Maybe you don't want to have a man, but you definitely want to have a community. You definitely want to have your little village. You don't have to be a person who steps into their business and hustles every day. Maybe as you say, what makes you happy? Is it the successful side of things of money, or what is success for yourself? Um, Maybe it is to say Monday mornings I'm not starting to work until 11, and that's what is a successful business for me. If I can do that, how great. That's how I want to live my life. Or if you have kids, you can say, nah, I want to always have time for my kids first. And then if I have time on top of that, I can create stuff on my business. It's all about figuring out what's good for you rather than what other people say. But I understand that it's really difficult to figure that out if you don't know yourself really well, if you can't feel your intuition, for example, because you are just really logical and all the time in your brain, umming and ahhing and comparing thoughts and comparing facts. It's really hard to feel into yourself, right? So it's kind of a journey to slow down, to speed up, and just to be with yourself a little bit more and see, like, what is the one thing that makes me, as you say, happy, or even more, what brings me peace? Because happiness, we don't have to be happy
Mm.
all the time, right? We think that's what I thought for a long time, that I have to be happy and then I have a fulfilled life. But once I understood, it's not about being happy all the time, because there is going to be sadness, there is going to be grief, there is going to be frustration and anger and nervousness and anxiety. And that's just the whole color of that life, or the whole palette, I would say. But what brings me peace in a baseline? Because I can be at peace and still be sad. I can be at peace and still be happy, right? So I think that's something we can kind of steer more towards too. Can I ask questions back? I have so many
Oh, please
questions.
do. Yes.
What was the time when you said you had that thing with your identity shift, or where you thought you were holding on to something?
I've been through it so many times.
Mm,
And like you, I think anyone that's also moved states, cities, countries, I think, you do go through so many identity shifts and holding on to what you were.
hmm.
So I worked in advertising agencies. I was like always the top performer in advertising agencies.
Yeah.
Hustle, I was the hustle girl. Like I was there before everybody else and I was the last one to leave. And I was really proud. I wore that like a badge of honor that I worked the hardest out of everyone.
Hmm.
Um, and I always had the most to do, and like I always had the biggest to-do list, and I had the most clients to serve. And I would just come home exhausted. I had like a very shell of a social life. I never met the right kind of partners or anything, because I wasn't available, because I threw everything I had into work. I didn't work
Yeah.
out. I wasn't living a healthy life. And when I was leaving London to move back to Melbourne, I just knew that everything had to change. And then, I fell back into those old habits again and
Hmm.
got the same sort of job. And I was like, oh my God, I've just recreated this again. And then I started my own business eventually and
Hmm.
recreated the 9 to 5 just with a
Hmm.
business. So I had to step
Right?
away from that
Yeah.
again. And, I started like so many different businesses. Like my first business was a jewelry business, which was like a side hustle, and had the marketing agency side of things. And now I'm into coaching. And it's always a thing of like, what are people going to say about me? Oh, she's starting another business again. Oh, she's doing, like kind of like the eye roll. There are those shadow parts of me that judge myself. And, you know, I think the path to enlightenment is to try and rid yourself of self-judgment and
Hmm.
judgment on everybody else. And then you find peace. And, even coming back from maternity leave earlier in the year, I started taking on clients and got really busy with like lots of work. And then I was just like, I don't want this. Like the
Hmm.
work I was doing, like I run meta ads for clients. I took on a lot of e-commerce brands that just weren't the founders weren't aligned with me, but I was just like easy work. Everything was coming to me. And I was like, you know what? Like if I actually don't enjoy the actual work, it's not worth it for me. Like I don't want to build a business that I don't enjoy. Like I don't
Yeah.
want that. Like, and I think when you come to that realization, you're just like, how have I got myself in this situation again? Like,
but and you have to be brave enough to start over. And I
Yeah.
think, when you do listen to the universe and you've learned about those skills, it makes it a lot easier because
Hmm.
you have the universe has your back. So I'd love to know about you and how you got into spirituality as well,
Mm.
and how that's kind of helped you, guide you, and get you into your fun spiritual modalities as well.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I haven't thought about that for a long time. So I think the first time I touched anything that was outside of my German little realm was when I started doing yoga when I was 13. And at that time, I thought, what are we doing? Like, why are we listening into ourselves? This is really boring. 13-year-olds who really don't want to do that. They'd rather be out there and chase the boys or something. And then after high school, a lot of Germans do a gap year and go travel somewhere else. And I went to Bali. And that was 2012. So it was very much not crowded Bali yet, not how we know it today, like very local and very slow, which was amazing. And I think what really caught my eye there is that we stayed with the Balinese family, and their main priority in their life was to make sure their little house temple was always stocked. Right? There were always those little cookies, the money, the rice, the cigarettes, whatever they're giving to their gods. They always wanted to make sure their gods are fine. So when I would ask them, hey guys, are you going for a travel soon or something? They're like, we can't because we really need to make sure every day in the morning we do our ceremony. And so for me, it was just so mind blowing to see that other people in different cultures live different lives and have different values, and they're so content with where they are. And I think that's where it opened up for me that there's different religions and different looks on life and different understandings of what happiness and peace can be, rather than classic Germans are very, you live to work. So you're working, working, working a lot. And they were just so happy and they didn't want any more money because they didn't know what to do with it, right? They bought a car, they bought a TV, and then they're like, what else should we do with it? We're not going to go for crazy travel. Like, that's all we want. And I think this is where it touched me for the first time. And from that point on, I was just very interested in Buddhism. I was very interested in Hinduism, just learning about the different ideas. And we all know that if you look at the big religions in this world, they all kind of have the same, more or less the same base values, right? Like love, for example, and don't do anything bad to anyone else. But I just really enjoyed the yogic philosophy on that side and how the idea of that we're all impacting each other and that we're all connected somehow and that life is a continuous circle and goes on and on and on. And there's always chances again, and you can decide again and you can do again if you want. That was just really mind blowing for me in that moment. So I was 20 at that time. And over the last years, I've just dabbled more and more into the universe. I've done my my coach would call it flatland spirituality, like tarot cards and oracle cards. And I love it. Don't get me wrong. It's so nice. It's so easy to say, yeah, the moon's the problem, you know. The tarot
Yeah.
card says I shouldn't do that. So I love that flatland kind of spirituality. I mixed it all up with yoga. I just tried to talk to as many different people as I could with a different look on life to pick what works for me. And it kind of was like a liberation as well, because I remember when I was in school, I was always one of those girls who really wanted to try and fit in. And I can still catch that little Laura from that time today, sometimes where I'm really trying to fit in. And so I'm not showing up for myself, but it just was this, okay, there's so much out there and I can be whoever I want and I can really get out there and do my thing and follow my dreams and go beyond the classic. You have a dog, you have a house, you have a career, you become I don't know, a senior manager at some crazy company, which is great. If you're one of those people doing that and you have fun with it, go for it. It was just never for me. And yeah, that always led me into traveling the world. And I think this is what opened everything up. So I lived in Amsterdam and I lived in Japan, and then I came back to Australia, which is such a different country. I was like, oh yeah, it's a Western country. It's going to be the same, but it's so different to where I'm from. It's such a different lifestyle. It's such a different way of community. And so today it's a fun mixture of, it's like you make up your own little religion, right? With spirituality, you build your own little thing. So, for example, I love the whole idea of a universe, but I also believe that the universe is inside of me. I don't think there's something out there that I can ask. I think in the end, it's always coming from me. Yes, I can ask outside, but the answer's coming from within. And maybe it's from generations and generations back, and maybe it's come generations forward. And it's just like this big thing that I'm still, yeah, I don't know how you go, but it's still something to grasp, you know? Like it's never set in stone. It's always evolving. And some weeks there's more spirituality in my life and some there's less. And sometimes it's coming back to myself and feeling really connected through breath work, through going to different circles. And sometimes it's literally just looking out there and seeing a bird fly and you're thinking like, how the heck is that bird flying? Why is it working? You know, that kind of stuff.
I think that all the time with birds, like even like I was reading in a book last night, like birds just know where to migrate to. They don't have an
I know.
iPhone, you know, looking at maps or anything. They're like, they don't even say, let's all go together. There's no one leader.
It's
They just
crazy.
all go together and they just, yeah, it's
Yeah.
wild. I
Yeah.
know.
It's so beautiful, right?
Isn't
Though,
it?
yeah,
Right?
and it's very, very romantic to it to some extent. You're just sitting here like, look at this. And it really helps you ground down and realizing you're not that big of a deal. Not in a
Mm.
bad way, but it helps me sometimes if I'm stuck in my thoughts. I'm like, oh my God, the world's going to go down if I'm not launching this project tomorrow, if I'm not getting out this masterclass. I'm like, calm down, Laura. The birds are growing, flying out there into the north or wherever they're flying. The whales are still going up and down. Shakira's still doing her thing. We're all doing our thing and it's all good,
It's
you
fine.
know?
Yeah. I know
Yeah.
whenever I get in that mode, I just need to go for a walk because walking is free
Yeah.
and it just makes you feel good.
Yeah.
Like just whenever you're in that mood, go for a walk. But I want to circle back to you
Mm.
saying you just wanted to belong and fit in growing up
Hmm.
and being a little girl. And I think it's really common amongst the light workers in on
Do
the
you
planet
think?
right now. I think we were all those little girls that always felt like we never belonged, and
Yeah.
you know, it felt like a bad thing growing up. But now I'm like, no, like I see why I never really felt like I belonged because I really
Mm.
think that the girls who felt like we didn't belong and didn't fit in and you know, I found it growing up really tough and you know, I definitely had friends and things, but I always felt like I was a little bit different. And like now I'm really
Mm.
starting to see why. And
Hmm.
yeah, I'd love to know your thoughts on that as well, because
Mm.
I think the world is waking up on a whole conscious level, but
Yeah.
I think the ones that are here to really lead this new generation and this new path are probably the ones that have always felt a bit like a bit weird or a bit crazy.
Yeah. I love that because sometimes you still feel alone in that, right? I
Mm,
still feel alone in that sometimes. So a good example is actually, and that's something I've never shared before, but that's maybe good to say is, so I moved back to the Sunshine Coast, Australia in May. So that's 6 months ago, right? And I got here. And last time I lived here, I was employed. So it was very easy to get to know people. I was always safe in that aspect of you have a job, money's coming in. And I got here and I didn't have friends anymore because my friends all had babies and had different lifestyle, all moved away. We had to find a new place and I had my own business. So starting again in a new country with a business that only has been running for 2 years and focusing on a different clientele and different time zone meant essentially starting up again. So I went through all these networking events because I was like, okay, Laura, you need to get yourself out there, you know, like classic Laura Virgo thing. I'm like, I'm getting out there, I'm doing this, I'm meeting all the women. And I got there and I realized I'm not fitting in. And I think the main, which is probably not true, but in my brain in that moment, I was like, I'm not fitting in. Just beautiful. Like, honestly, judging myself just simply on looks. I was like, everyone's so polished. Everyone's like in that clean girl aesthetic. They all seem like they have their shit together. They're doing their Pilates, they're doing their green shoes, they're going out every morning, they're doing everything. And I was like, I feel so small in that moment. So it took me a long time to understand that just that one kind of people I see, that's just my own projection, right? So nothing of that is probably true. They're all beautiful people. I've talked to some of them, they're friends now. In that moment, I just felt like I have no idea where I belong. But this is not everything, and you can create your own community as well. You don't have to fit in. But in that moment, because I came into a new country, I so badly wanted to fit in because I wanted to belong. And feeling lonely is so, I'm not sure if you've ever felt lonely, but loneliness is a really overpowering, strong, sad feeling. And I still have that up until today. If you have family somewhere else or friends somewhere else, if you've lived somewhere else, I mean, you've lived in London, you know how it's probably is. Loneliness can be very mm, like freezing you up in your whole nervous system. And that was just really, really difficult. And then now I know it's the little Laura coming out, the 13-year-old who really wanted to belong, who really wanted to figure out, how can I be there? How can I make sure I look the same? How can I just slide in? How am I not even saying? I turn out really shy in that moment. I'm a very quirky, fun little person, but in these moments, I'm just like, I don't speak English anymore. Oh my God, I don't know if they understand me. What do they think of me? Another life coach, that kind of stuff. What is she even doing? And it's so crazy how your mind can be so powerful from patterns from the past. And these patterns and thoughts obviously create your feelings, and that again creates your emotional reaction in your body, and that again creates your actions and how you're just manifesting everything in yourself, although it might not even be true. And how it sometimes takes time to settle in, which is hard because 6 months in Laura brain is very long time. Other people say, you're only here for 6 months, Laura, chill out.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. Like, because I can
Yeah.
totally relate to feeling lonely, I think
Mm.
there's many different stages of womanhood that we
Yeah.
we do go through different phases of feeling lonely and like we're not, riding the same wave as our peers. And I think female adult friendships are one of the hardest things to master in this life, I
Yeah.
guess, because we all crave it so much. But I think a lot of us just, yeah, we are in our own head, a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
My partner will just be like, you're in your own head about this, because
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of us would go to a networking event and really, really crave those female friendships. And yeah, there are those different parts and protectors
Yeah.
around us. So I think so many people can relate to that. And I think that would, there's definitely been networking events that I bought a ticket to and chickened out at the last minute because I'm like, I just can't do it tonight. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm someone who's so outgoing and no one would ever expect that of me too, because whenever I do open up about those things, people will just be like, you're shy, you get
Mm-hmm.
nervous. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, overwhelmingly sometimes. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm really interested in what you said about little Laura and how the I guess for those who don't know, that's kind of speaking about your inner child work
Yeah.
and your inner child healing work. I'm really interested to know about the healing work around that and other advice you have for women
Mm-hmm.
in that same sort of scenario.
Yeah. Um, so maybe just to get everyone on board, doesn't matter where you are. You heard about it probably again already, but maybe you haven't. So basically, imagine it this way. You're going through your life and let's start again. So you are coming onto this earth. Imagine your head being like a little computer. And it's fully empty. And you're downloading all those cute programs from your parents, from your peers, all that stuff that you seem is working in that world, right? So you're taking those programs on, you're like, yep, that all works for me. And one day in your life, when you, for example, 20 and you go to Bali, you realize that one program is not working anymore. It's really annoying, it's not loading, it's really slow. So you decide to maybe start a new program, but that new program looks weird. You don't know where the right buttons are. You have no idea where to click. You're like, oh, this is exhausting. It's not installing correctly. Internet's not working, rah, rah. So you click the old pattern again. You click the old program again. This is basically how beliefs work, right? So we build those beliefs in our childhood. For example, beliefs of mine are you need to work a lot to make money, or used to be. Another belief is you have to fit in, you have to always be nice to make sure everyone likes you, so there's no friction, that kind of stuff. And that worked because if I would behave that way, I'm surviving. Everyone else likes me, there's no friction. My basic self, my body is surviving. And that's what your nervous system is trying to do, keeping you on survival mode. Now, if you want to change those beliefs, first of all, you have to figure out your beliefs, and how you can do that really easily is to check in where they're coming from. So this is where you get in touch with your inner child. And there's several different inner children, right? So there's a 7-year-old Laura that has a belief, then there's a 13-year-old Laura that has a belief, there's a 17-year-old one, and they all created those different beliefs due to a certain situation that usually is not true, but maybe it even is, but in their head it's definitely true. And nowadays, when I go to a networking event, maybe little 7-year-old Laura is coming out and saying, you have to be nice to everyone, ask everyone questions, entertain people so they really like you. And maybe that's not even who I want to be. But because if I haven't realized this is my inner child, I think this is my today Laura. If I can understand this is actually 7-year-old Laura, I can get into contact with her. I can maybe talk to her. I can figure out, why do you believe this? And I can tell her, hey, listen, we're a team now. I know that's really hard. I know you want to be liked, and I know you're scared of not being liked because maybe you've had that in the past. But we're here at this networking event now. I'm the 32-year-old Laura, and I tell you, I've got it under control. We're going here. Can we do this together? So you kind of build an alliance with your inner children. I always say to people, imagine, and you have more of those parts, right? Imagine you have all your parts, your inner children, your inner perfectionist, your inner fear, your driver, your dreamer, all those little voices that come in our head. Imagine you're the CEO of your own little company, and all those voices want to have a seat on the table. They all want to say something, but in order to work with them, you need to listen to them. Problem is, if we are not listening to them, they're going to come up and they're going to come up again and again and again until it clashes for you. Until you feel like, as you said, I'm coming to Melbourne again and I'm building the exact same pattern again. That is literally what happens. It's something coming up from the past, trying to be like, that's the pattern we've been doing, Shakira. Let's better do this because it works. And because you don't understand that this is not you, but this is a past you and this is actually not real, you're like, yeah, true. Okay, that works. Let's go. But at some point, you're going to be sick of it. You're like, nah, I don't want to change this. This is not how I want to live it anymore. It doesn't serve me anymore. This is annoying. I don't want to make myself small. I want to show my authentic self. I want to understand to myself, hey, I'm actually okay how I am. And these other women are amazing and they're going to appreciate you how you are. They're not mean girls. That's not a thing. Um, and then you can start working with your inner child. So I think the first suggestion is, if you're sitting there right now, identify these patterns. What is happening again and again and again in your life? And you always say, I'm falling into this hole again. I'm always attracting the same kind of partners. I always attract the same kind of friends. Or I always have the same experiences. Or I always end up giving so much to others and they never ask me how I am. These words of like, this is always happening, this is where your pattern's sitting. And it sucks to say that because you're only responsible for that. We always think someone else could take care of it for us, but it doesn't work that way, sadly. So I guess identifying is the first step. And then sit with yourself. And there's different methods of talking to your inner child or working with your inner children. Some people don't even do that. Some people straight away go into belief work, which is also okay, and just start working on new beliefs and just work more from a logical mind. I really like the body part because I know I'm good enough. I know I have enough. Let's say I have to go on a stage tomorrow. It could be that I'm telling myself I'm good enough. I know that I can do everything, but my body's still going to be nervous. I'm still going to be sitting there like, whew, okay, we're going to the stage. Are we really doing this? Because your body's reacting on that inner child. So that's why I like to work with embodiment a lot, I guess.
And the
Yeah.
body holds so much memory.
So much smarter than we all are. We always think we can outsmart our body, but honestly, the body is so cool. It's so, once you surrender to it and you're like, yeah, let's listen more and figure out what's happening. And if it's just something like, oh, my back's hurting or my skin's breaking out, yes, of course, could be hormonal, but maybe there's something else in your life happening right now.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think with the thing with skin as well is like, um, it's written on your face, you know. So I always
Yeah.
find that whenever my skin is breaking out, it's because I have so much turmoil going in. You know, I'm just like speaking to myself, like my inner critic is going wild,
Yeah.
and then it just becomes written on your face. Like I
Yeah.
think that's kind of, you know, or other ways, yeah, like the sore back or the I get it here, like when I'm really stressed. I get in my shoulders and my neck, I can really feel it there. So yeah, I'd
Yeah,
love to
it's
hear
because we
more.
load too much. So there's like, we load too
Mm,
much on our shoulders, especially as women. A lot of women have lower back issues, and we always say, oh, it's just because it's a female body, blah, blah, blah. But there's a reason why we all have those lower back issues, because we're loading too much, because we come from a generation of carers, right? We think we have to care about everyone and everything. Yes, of course we do. We're really good at it. Doesn't mean that we have to do it. If it's not your own children. So I have so many situations where I cared about stuff that actually wasn't mine to carry. And it's just because I'm good at it. And I'm like, why do you even do that? And then you load it onto you and you have to deal with it later. So maybe also something to check in for everyone is, what do you carry right now that's not yours to carry? Yeah. How
yeah,
do
and I
you,
think, sorry,
you
go
go?
on.
No, you go.
I was just going to say, I think in the service-based industry as well, like when we have clients and we want to go above and beyond for clients, and sometimes we take that responsibility on a little too much and we allow clients to cross those boundaries because we think, oh, it's just a little bit here and there. I'll just quickly do this and here and there. And it really does add up, you know, like when we don't have those like clear boundaries set with our clients or with ourselves, that stress can really add up. So I think that's a really powerful question to
Yeah.
ask yourself.
Hmm. How do you deal with inner children, inner parts, inner voices?
To be honest, it is really hard work. It's a lot
Mm.
harder than it sounds.
Mm.
And I think when I'm sleep deprived, I have a 1.5-year-old. I know
Mm.
that when I'm sleep deprived, I'm not making good decisions.
Hmm.
Like I forget that I'm not my own thoughts, and it can become like a downward spiral, right?
Yeah.
Like when you're so tired, you're letting your stress and your overwhelm get to you. Sometimes you just need to take a nap or go for a walk, but
Mm.
sometimes it's a little too late for me, and I get
Mm.
past that point. So I definitely find sleep. Thank God my baby's a good sleeper now, and my life is a lot better. When she wasn't sleeping, I was a different person.
Yeah.
I love EFT tapping, I think, to get
Hmm.
into the body. I try and do that every night. I don't have a morning routine because it's impossible with a toddler, but I
Yeah.
have a nighttime routine. And journaling is really powerful for me as
Mm.
well. Like just, a bit of rage on the page and just getting my
Yeah.
angry thoughts out, or gratitude as well. Like, yeah, and
Awesome.
I love breath work as well. It's not something I do enough, but I
Mm.
absolutely love breath work, and I'd love to hear more about your method of breath work, and
Hmm.
all your body modalities.
Yeah. So I think what you just said with the different tools, I think what's really important to understand is there's so many out there, and you are allowed to pick the ones that work for you. And you don't have to do the same all the time as well. Because a lot of my clients come to me, they're like, I need a morning routine and it has to look like this every day. And then you have to think about we're so different. We all grow up so different. We have different energy types if you're into human design or astrology or whatever. But you have to pick something that works for you. So, for example, I have a list where I wrote down all the things that I like doing in the morning, and I pick one every day because it's so hard sometimes to sit down and journal for 20 minutes. It's a long time, you know? So maybe it's just that one thing where you open the windows and you take a deep breath and you look at the clouds moving and you're like, I'm alive, the world's still rolling, I'm okay. So this is something that I really highly recommend, giving yourself a little bit more grace in that whole thing, not making your routine your to-do list. I can do that too. I can be like, today I still need to journal and I need to go for a walk because I need that for my mental health. And I know it still helps, but again, do I want this or do I need this? And then figuring out how can I make sure it's something that actually serves me rather than something I just push through because it's what some people say I should do. So I've done EFT, for example, for a long, is it EFT, ETF, emotional freedom, EFT.
Oh,
I
yes.
always mix it
I
up.
don't know what I call it.
You know,
Yeah.
money or tapping,
We have a
anything.
my partner runs a financial advice company as
There you
well. So I
go.
do get a bit confused between all
Same.
the abbreviations, very different industries.
So the emotional freedom technique is very great. Now I've used that too for a while, and now right now, for example, I'm more into talking to myself in the mirror, and it just changes. So if you're not sure how to journal because that's something that is too big of a, let's say, a little wall to jump over, or if you feel like EFT tapping out on I haven't found a good video yet or something, maybe it's just about speaking out loud to yourself what's going on in your head. And it's really random, right? But I'm just standing there in front of my mirror. I did it this morning and I have conversations with myself. So I'm like, Laura, what's up? And then I'm like, okay, so this is really annoying right now. I'm like, so it's like I'm changing my roles. I'm like, okay, this is really annoying. This is really bothering me. This is scary. And I'm like, okay, what did we talk about last night? You know, like you have those little conversations with yourself because what's actually interesting is when women are stressed, our testosterone levels rise. And in order to build them back down, we have to talk about it. That's why a lot of women want to talk about their things. Whereas men, on the other hand, if you are in a, let's say, heteronormative relationship, when they get stressed, their testosterone level rises as well. So they're a little bit stressed. But then when we women come to him, we're like, let's talk about it. Let's talk it out. We need to talk about this. You know, it's our issue. We're in a relationship together. Their estrogen level rises as well, and they even get more stressed. I'm not sure if you've ever seen it, but I've noticed that in a few times with my partner. He gets so stressed he can't even talk anymore. He's like, he
Mm.
can't grasp a thought. It's like empty head for him. And that's when that happens. So what men have to do is they have to do something that brings the estrogen level down, which is usually they do something with their hands, something they're good at, something they know what they're doing or working out. Whereas we women need to talk. And if you understand it, it's
That's
so much
so
easier in a
funny. Yeah.
relationship, right? Because you're like, oh, cool. It's not that he doesn't want to talk to me. It's just he can't do it right now because his hormones are going a bit crazy. The poor guy, he never has crazy hormones in his whole life. Now he has crazy hormones. Let's give him a minute, you know?
Yeah, I find that like sometimes like my partner can just like go to sleep or like just go
Yeah,
back to work. I'm like, how can you like
I know.
just switch into something else? Like we were literally just talking about
Yeah,
this other thing and now you've literally just
yeah.
I'm like, I need to talk this through, hun. Like, come on. Like sit with me for at least 5 minutes. Like
Yeah,
just listen. You don't have to say anything. Just
yeah.
listen.
So maybe for exactly that really helps us saying, okay, I know you're stressed right now. I'm stressed right now. I need to talk about this. Can we meet in 10 minutes? And then I'll talk about this with you. So they have some time to like get this level back down and you can talk about it. But what I wanted to say to circle back is talk about these things with yourself. If there's no one to listen to yourself around, talk it to yourself or send your friend a memo and be like, hey, I'm just talking myself through this now and I'm sending it to you. So I'm doing this, you know? Like there's so many different ways of getting it out of your head first, and then you can actually feel your body. So if we're coming into breath, for example, breathing is something I found really powerful just to connect yourself a little bit more. And it sounds very boring because obviously everyone knows how to breathe. And when people say, okay, start observing how your belly's rising and how your belly's falling, a lot of people, if you are in a stressy situation, you're like, I don't have time for that. I don't have time to listen to my breath. So there's a few different breathing techniques that can really support you in feeling your body more. And I want to highlight on that we're not breathing feelings away, because this is what you learn in some circles sometimes, is that breath work is all about letting go of things. Whereas I don't believe in letting go. I believe in bringing them up, being able to grasp them, understanding them, and then you can transform them. But to let go of things, there's a reason why they're there. There's a reason why they've been in your body for so long. Same like beliefs and patterns. I'm not sure if we can ever let go of something fully. We build stronger patterns, we build other beliefs for sure. And the older ones, if we go back into the computer idea, you click them less and less, but they're still going to be on your back end installed. So breathing can really help you just to, if you are in that crazy situation, to for a second come back to yourself and to check in. Because if I am already overwhelmed, if I am already spiraling, and I can't journal because that's not my vibe, or I don't want to talk to anyone because I feel weird in front of the mirror, or ETF tapping is not available right now because everything is just like fully of anxiety, it can help to just do a simple, it's called 5-5 breathing. You inhale for 5, you exhale for 5, you inhale for 5, you exhale for 5. You do that 3 to 5 rounds. So that's less than a minute usually. And you can start feeling coming back into your parasympathetic nervous system. So your rest and digest. And that's when you can start also grasping your thoughts again. And that's when you can then check in with yourself. What's happening? Is that right now true? Is it not true? Am I making something up? If it is true, what can I do? If it is not true, what can I do then? How can I work with myself better? And there's obviously like those big breath work sessions. I've done that before too. I host them sometimes. So like those full 1 hour or like half an hour to 1 hour things where you lay down, you set an intention, you are deciding, okay, today I want to look into why is Laura feeling like she needs to belong all the time. And you just allow yourself through breathing to fully switch your brain off and to fully come into your body. So what happens if you look in brain frequencies is that usually when we are in stress, so our brain has different frequencies we can measure, right? You have dreaming frequencies. I think that's delta or gamma. I'm not sure right now. You have theta frequencies, which is all about manifesting and creation. And you also have alpha and beta. And beta is the one we're constantly in because we're constantly stressed in this world. We are stressed because we get new messages, new emails. We have to do this, we have to do that. It's not real stress. It's stress we're producing. But you still are very high in that fluctual beta frequency. And breathwork can help you to actually bring the frequency down onto one of the theta or delta levels. And that's when your brain is getting slower. And it kind of feels like everything's empty and everything's getting heavy. And out of a sudden, you're not thinking anymore. And that can happen within 10 minutes too. So it's pretty powerful. But then again, that's just one technique that I really like. Not everyone is into breath work, right? Again, that's something you have to trial. And if you feel good with it, because your body feels a little bit weird and you can feel your fingers and you can feel a little bit dizzy and you can feel a little bit like, ooh, what's going on here in my body? Um, Once you get over that stage and you feel comfortable, then you can let go and you can be like, all right, what's happening today? What do I need to hear? What do I need to tell myself? What's really inside of me? what kind of advice can I give myself today, for example? Yeah. So I do this with clients, I do this for myself. There is like episodes on podcasts on that. There's all the little kind of twerks, and you just have to figure out what's your kind of vibe, I guess.
Yeah, it's incredible. And like there's so much science
Hmm.
backed behind the different
It's so
types of
cool.
breath. And I think not enough people know about it, because
Yeah.
I think if people did know the reason why using the breath is so powerful, but even beyond science, like, there's when I've gone into a 45-minute, 1 hour breath work, like the things that come out of that can be mind blowing. I remember the first time I ever did a 45-minute like breath work. I just did it at home.
Hmm.
Do you know Catherine Zankina, Manifestation Babe? I don't know if you know
Yeah.
her.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so I did she has like a Manifestation Babe Academy. And this is probably 2021. She had like breath work sessions as a part of the program. And I had no idea what to expect going into it. She just always raved about how amazing breath work is for manifestation. And I just remember my whole body tingling. Like it's such a drug-free high. Like
It's crazy.
I think it's because like a form of DMT, right?
Yeah.
Like it is a form, like you are literally in a different realm. You're not on this planet. You like, if you don't understand frequencies or vibrations, I really encourage you, if you're listening, to have an intense breathwork session and reach out
Hmm.
to Laura and book in with her, because you actually understand frequency and vibration, because you're literally vibrating. Like, you get the crab claw
Yeah.
hands, and it's such an incredible feeling. And other times I've done intense breathwork sessions, I've loved every single session. I know that not everyone has loved every single session, and
Hmm.
some people can use it for to bring up a lot of trauma and go really deep within inside themselves. And if that's you, go for it. I feel like my astrological path isn't too deep in the exploring all the depths of my trauma and
Yeah.
healing, but I actually cured my fear of childbirth through an intense breathwork session. I didn't go
Cool.
in with that intention at all, but I just remember having lots of different generations of women in front of me. I don't really know what happened in the session, but I came out and I was like, I've cured my fear of childbirth, which was so
Oh my
random because I was
God.
always terrified of it. Like I never thought I was going to have children, because I was so afraid of the childbirthing experience. Like it was just my whole family knew it, like a really big, genuine fear of mine was giving birth, like it just the pain, and I didn't want to
Yeah.
hear about it. I didn't want to know about it. And then 12 months later, I got pregnant and now I have a baby, and I'm like, oh,
Wow.
childbirth, whatever. Like, don't even
This
like
is so beautiful. You kind of broke
worry.
the cycle. How amazing is that?
Mm,
Yeah, you changed history for your own ancestors and for yourself and forward as well.
yeah.
Beautiful. That's so
Yeah.
great.
Have you had
So cool.
any crazy experiences, or any of your clients, or
So I've done a breathwork session last week with a client, and they usually get journaling questions for me afterwards. And she has replied to me, so we have to speak about it. But I know she messaged me and she said there was so much coming up afterwards as well. So I think it's something to also be aware of. It's something you're integrating, right? It takes time for new things to pop up. It's not just that 145 minute. It's something you go in, you come out, you integrate, more ideas come, more understanding comes. And with every session, it kind of deepens yourself more. Um, I definitely had clients who just felt at peace for the first time with themselves for a long time. And I think that's already so powerful to just know, as you say, it's just your breath that can bring you so much peace and so much quietness within yourself where you have space to listen in. Um, I haven't had like crazy, because breathwork is just one part of my work. I'm not doing this all the time. I haven't had crazy breakthroughs through this, because we do a lot of logical work before, because that's what people usually want to start off with. So they feel like I have got this, I have it under control, I'm holding on to, I'm just doing the stuff that comes up. Breathwork a lot of times is scary for people, because they're like, ooh, what if something comes up I'm not ready for? And maybe something saying here, your psyche is never going to bring up stuff you're not ready for in a natural process. breath work is a natural process. You can always stop the breath work and breathe normally, and your sensations will go back to normal within several seconds. The only time that your psyche is bringing things up that you're not ready for is probably if you use any substances. Also, something you could do, you could explore that. And you will definitely be able to deal with that as well if you have the right guidance on the side. But if you feel like this is scary, I don't know what's coming up for me, just go in with the feeling of, I'm just gonna let go a little bit today. And I'm just going to be here and explore and see what comes up. Because we are holding on so tightly in control in this life and safety, and like I'm holding myself. Just to go in somewhere where your body is taking over and your brain's actually shutting down can be very confronting for a lot of people for the first time, right? So yeah,
Mm.
give it a try. Just do 10 minutes. And if you feel like, ooh, this is too much, stop for a second. Do it again next time. Do 15 next time. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mhm.
If you're feeling called to it or intrigued, I can't recommend it enough.
Yeah, it's awesome. Don't do it. Don't do it when you're pregnant, though, please. Don't do it when you're
Yes. Yes. Let's just be safe.
or
Yeah.
do slow ones. There's also
This is
pregnant.
not medical advice.
Yeah, not medical advice. But please, if you want to do it and you're not sure about if you can do it, just do the slower ones. There's definitely slow breath work as well, where you can relax a little bit and just feel your system coming back into your rest and digest mode. Yeah.
I just have one more question. Sorry, I have so many
Yeah. I
questions
love
for
that. No,
you.
it's so fun. This is great.
Because things just keep popping into my mind. I'm like, oh, I
Yeah.
really want to go there. So, you did say a lot of your clients will come to you and just want the logical, they probably want the quick
Yeah.
fix. They're like, fix me, what's the fix? I want to do it in this one session. Let's go. And then I have this big goal. So
Yeah.
I'd love to know a bit about you know, what clients kind of come to you for
Mm.
and maybe like what they think their big revelation is going to be and
Mhm.
generally like how you might take them down a bit of a different path.
Mm. So it's so interesting because a lot of the people that come to me saying, I need better systems, I need better structure, I need more time for myself, I need my brain to be able to breathe again. I just have too much on my plate. So they come with the idea of, I'm going to Laura and I'm going to sort out my life. So I have a better project plan for my life. So I have a better project plan for my business. Because we all know if you have your own business, it's basically one. Your life impacts your business and the other way around, right? Um, and a lot of my clients, and it doesn't really matter if you've been starting out just now with your business or if you've been in a business for a long time, because the topics come again and again just in a different kind of, I would say, stage. And they come to me and they're saying, oh, I'm just working a lot and I'm pouring all my heart, my energy into all of this. And then I feel like it's taking traction or getting traction, or my new ideas getting traction, but is this really it? Like, is that how it's supposed to feel like? That's what I was trying to get? Maybe it's like you are earning a lot of money, or maybe you have a lot of clients, or maybe you feel like, yeah, I'm just all working out, but I'm still not feeling happy yet. And so a lot of them come wanting to have a cleaned up business, which is so interesting because then when we start working with each other, let's say you would be my client and you come, Laura, I need more clean systems. I need to work this out. I could obviously look at your business with you and be like, all right, where do you feel like it's not really working? And what do we need to change? And where can we introduce different systems? Or how can we get help? Or where could you outsource things? We can do all those things. But a lot of the time, this is not even the issue. And people realize, I can't turn these strategies around you're giving me right now because something's blocking me. It might be the fear. It might be the fear even of becoming big, of being successful. Maybe I can't hold this. Maybe I'm changing. What if my partner doesn't like me anymore? What if my friends don't like me anymore? All those fears that come in, or that thinking of, um, I I'm scared to show myself more. I'm scared to speak about what I want. Or I'm scared to change my business model because actually I really want to move into, let's say, breath work, but I'm so close, stuck on inner child work that I'm not really sure how to integrate this. What if my clients, So there's all those beliefs coming up, all those doubts, all those worries, that before we turn around the strategies of new systems, we need to figure out how can we make sure you feel aligned with what you're doing. Because I had that so many times when I just started off and I wasn't using the embodiment piece so much that I would give people their homework. They always get homework because obviously coaching is a lot of doing and actions, and be like, all right, so until next time, you've asked your friend if they can support you in bookkeeping. And they come back and they're like, I couldn't ask. I'm like, okay, what's happening? And they're like, I just I'm not sure what they're going to think of me. And then we go deep, and it's all about the inner stuff. And then once we figure out how can we make sure you feel safe in your inner stuff, then you can turn out your strategies. So this is so interesting because a lot of people don't come to me and saying like, I want embodiment, or I want breath work, or I want alignment or flow or ease, because we don't really know what flow is, what ease is, what alignment feels like. They're so fun, beautiful spiritual buzzwords, but no one really understands what alignment is like if you don't feel it. Especially if you're not in alignment, you're going to be like, I need alignment, and I have no idea what that actually is. Um, so yeah, it's a lot about getting them to slow down, which is scary if you're coming from a hustle perspective, because your nervous system is wired to keep going and going and going and going. And to slow down could mean maybe I'm have to do more than tomorrow, or I'm not going to be able to keep up, or there's so many things to do. I can't slow down, Laura. I don't have time for this, or I'm not sure if this will work for me. I'm not even sure if I'm ready for this, to slow down. And to first allow them to, or give them permission slip. Okay, let's slow down for 1 second. Let's figure out what's actually behind all of your wants, your needs, and how can we make sure that it feels good within you so you can turn it around. That's, I think, the main thing that people come to me with. But no one comes like, hey, I need breathwork sessions and I need to be more energetically in my frequency. That's something you do when you've been in this whole space for a long time. Then people can realize that and be like, okay, Laura, we've worked on this in the past. I'm again at that point. Can you tell me again? Or can we ground myself again? Or how can we get myself into a different frequency? Yes, when you've been in there for a while, that's great. But
Mm.
usually people come in the beginning and they want to build something, and they're even thinking they're in for a hustle period. They're like, yeah, I'm ready to hustle. I'm ready to get this done. I just need the support. So I'm doing this correct. And then the most feedback I'm getting usually is, I didn't think we would be going that deep. Yeah.
Mm.
Mm.
It's usually like the third session, I find that they're like,
Yeah.
oh, I see
Mm.
now.
And
Like,
it's the same for all of us, right? I have a coach for myself because I can do the logic so easily. I'm like, yep, that's where I want to go. That's my plan. That's what I'm doing. This is working. Then I get stuck, and I can do it now by myself most of the time, that I can ground myself down, figure out what's wrong. But sometimes you need someone to look at your blind spots, and someone to just, I don't know, accelerate it a little bit for you and pave the way, because they went through it already, so they can show you quicker how to get there. Yeah.
yeah. And that's the power
Mm.
of coaching, isn't it?
Hmm. Yeah, it is. It's beautiful. It's so cool to always, like, at one point in my life I thought, when's it gonna end? When am I there? When am I gonna be at the end point, and when am I done coaching or coached? But I think it's just, there's always the possibility of expansion. You never have to do it, but something's obviously calling you to go somewhere else. And someone said something really beautiful the other day. They said, if if you are so drawn to something, you probably have created it already in a different life, in a different lifetime, because that's why you're so drawn to it. Because you could also just become, I don't know, a hairdresser, but you're not trying to hold on to that, right? Like, what's the reason you really are longing for this one thing? Because you've created it already, so you can do it as well.
Yeah. Oh, I believe deeply in past life things.
Mm-hmm.
Deeply. One
Same.
of my family members remembers his past life. And
Oh my God,
yeah,
cool.
yeah. So it's not my story to tell, so I don't really tell the story,
No, yeah, but
but
that's
it
beautiful.
is, yeah, it makes you believe. And then you hear about all these other stories, I just, yeah. And there's some women just know they always want to be a mother their whole life, and some women know they want to be a nurse. And it's just
Yeah.
like, how can you grow up having that strong belief in knowing you want to be that,
Yes.
and
I
then
was
just
always jealous on that.
that.
I never knew what to do with my life. And I was always like, why do I not know that I want to be a doctor or a teacher, or I don't know. And yeah, now 32, you're like, that's why. Okay. There's a really great book I
Yeah,
can
I don't know.
recommend. Mm.
Yes, what's the book?
So it's called Many Lives, Many Masters. Have you heard of it?
No.
No, it's awesome. So it's a book about past lives, but it's written by a psychologist who did a study on it in a uni in, I think, Massachusetts it was. So it's very scientifically backed, but it's interesting because obviously he can't really back it scientifically because there's no real science to it, right? There's no like proof of past
Right.
lives. So he writes it kind of like an essay, and it gives you so much trust in the whole world, and that you're going to do this again and again and again. And there's a reason for why we are how we are, and what has been impacting us from ancestors all the way back, like you with your childbirth, and how you can break the cycle. And it's just really cool. Many lives, many masters. I'll send you the name and the author if you want to pop it into
Yeah,
the
I'll
show
put the
notes.
link in the show
Mm,
notes. Yes, yes, love a good book
cool.
recommendation.
So
And it's
good.
funny because like the same thing that I was thinking about when you were talking about the coffee shop, and I was like, it's funny, the universe will just keep sending you the same sign. It
Yeah.
just won't work out because it's not supposed to. Something better is coming around the corner. And for a lot
Hmm.
of us working in the online space, I'm 32 as well. And when we were 20, the online space wasn't a thing. So how were
Yeah,
we supposed to know
true.
what we wanted to do? Because, there was like a couple of influences here and there. It was all about health influence. Like
Hmm.
if you worked out and like made smoothies and sure, start
Yeah.
this Instagram, but that was kind of where it stopped. So
Yeah.
I think a lot of us in our 30s working in the online space, we've probably had many different careers and many different dreams. And I used to want to be an actress growing up. Like I just wanted to be,
Really?
or a journalist, or like a MTV host, or something like that. So it kind of makes sense that I'm, in this field that I'm in now, I guess.
Hmm. Yeah, that's cool. So interesting how it all comes together, right? And then I think it gives you so much freedom also knowing that you can change it again, which is so
Yeah.
beautiful. I always thought you have to do this for like 10 years or like until you're 40, what is it, 62 or something, 65. But just to have the freedom to say next year, I don't want to do this anymore. I'll do something else. It's just so beautiful that we're so privileged to be able to do it, like to decide again and again. Yeah.
Yeah, and sell in different ways and focus on different
Hmm.
things and pivot
And
and
change
switch it up.
workload. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, so
Yeah, we're
cool.
really, really blessed. I think with everything going on in the world, I'm just like, we're just so blessed to be able to get to do this.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so good. Ah,
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much. I've just like loved this conversation.
yeah, same. That was so fun. It just flows, right? After a while, you're like, what else? Oh my God, let's talk for ages. It's so great.
I know, I'm
So
like, oh, one
fun.
more question, one more
No, I
question.
love it. It's
Yeah.
so fun. Yeah. It's so important as well, like to speak about this yourself because again, you're reflecting and you hear yourself saying things you're like, again, with the wanting to belong. I've never said that to anyone before. And I'm like, this is so important. Once you say it to other people, it's not part of you anymore either. It's just one part that is there, but it's not, as you say, you're not your thoughts. Oh, that's the thing that's here. Oh, whoops, there it was again. But it's not me. It's just one thing
Yeah.
in me. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that story, by
Thank
the
you for
way.
letting
So,
me share it. Yeah. Mhm.
and where can everybody find you? What can they learn from you? Do you have anything
Yes.
coming up that they can grab off you? What are all the things?
Yes, so I'm actually really excited because I've been doing one-on-ones for the last 2 years, and now I'm starting my own mastermind where you're going to be an expert chatter, which I love. So, for the last 2 years, I've been collecting so much knowledge and so many tools about how women in business can work their stuff out. And what I realized, and what everyone's craving, is always if you work for yourself, is a community and be we don't realize how many women have the same issues as we do, right? And if we can share our issues a little bit, I can be like, oh my gosh, she has the same stuff as I going on. How good. We're not alone in this world. I'm okay. I'm not weird, that kind of vibe. So I'm starting a mastermind that's kicking off in February now, actually. It's really exciting. So it's going to be 6 months. And I think what the special thing about is for me is that it's going to be still coaching based. So it's not me just teaching. There's going to be coachings every 2 weeks, but it's going to be group coachings in small groups so you can learn from each other depending where you are on your business stage. Sometimes it's really great to hear someone who's further along than you are. And sometimes it's really good to hear someone who's starting off because they usually have really cool, fun ideas and they're maybe not as rigid yet in their structures and they're like playing around in their energy a little bit more. And then there's going to be energetic calls where we talk about exactly the stuff we talked about today. So it's all going to be like, what kind of energy are you holding? How are you attracting your clients, not from the strategic mind point, but how can you actually pull those people in for yourself? How can you bring your messaging out there? And then there's going to be strategic calls where we really talk about, okay, how can you do better funnels? What is a better offer for you? Is it your offer? Is it aligning with someone else's offer? So it's going to be a fun mixture of energy, body stuff, life coaching stuff, but still the business side. So you feel like if you are starting a business or you are in the middle of your business, you can really feel support in that whole thing. And then there's going to be 6 amazing guest speakers who have way more ideas about like for example, in your case, like ads and marketing and that kind of stuff. And they can give all the juicy goodness and all the fun things that you need to know when you are in the ever-changing world of online business as well. And yeah, and then there's community in there, and there's cacao ceremonies, and there's breathwork sessions. So it's kind of this whole I'm really excited. I'm like, this is going to be such a great space. And that's kicking off in February. So it's called Beyond Business. If you want to check it out, have a look, have a chat. Always talk to me as well. I love talking and figuring out if I can even be the right person for you, because in the end, coaching is a lot about vibe. It's a lot about, can this person hold me in my issues, in my space, in my energy? And that's why I always prefer to talk to people so they can really experience what's going on, and if they feel good, and if it's not too stretchy, but a little bit stretchy, and then we can move from there. So yeah, that's me. And other than that, find me on Instagram. I'll send you all the links. You can have a look what I'm doing. Always reach out with questions. Always reach out with drop me your voice memos if you need someone to talk to. Honestly, just pop it there, because yeah, that's what we're here for, I guess, right?
Instead of talking to yourself in the mirror, maybe try sending it to
Yeah,
Laura
just send it to
first.
Laura.
Because talking to yourself in the mirror is hard, by the way. We
I
didn't mention
know,
that earlier, but that is really, really hard to do. So if you need
especially
any
looking
tips on
yourself in the
that,
eye.
mm,
Yeah, it can be very
yeah,
confronting. Yeah.
yeah. About looking at yourself
Mhm.
naked in the mirror.
Yeah.
If you want to really face your shadows today, go ahead and do
Do this
that.
now.
All right.
Awesome.
Well, loved this chat. Have to have you
Same.
on again. I think more talking
Yeah, why
about
not?
attracting clients and creating those systems around the energy work. But I just
Mm.
loved where this conversation went today. I think it's just such an incredible way to kick off the podcast for the year and have those really special chats. And I just love talking about this stuff. And I know my listeners are going to love hearing about it. So thank you so much.
Aw, thanks for having me. Thanks for letting me ramble about all my stuff. It's always beautiful. It's always fun to share. Yeah.
We love the rambling. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.